Hello everyone and welcome to History at Eastleigh Academy. I'm Mrs Clifton and your teachers will be either myself, Mrs York or Mr Lees. Just to give you a little bit of an introduction to Year 7 history then. In Key Stage 3, so in Years 7 to 9, we teach history through the themes of ordinary people, empire and migration, and power and democracy. And in Year 7, in the autumn term, you'll be looking at invaders and settlers before the Norman Conquest, and then you'll also look at the Norman Conquest and its impact. In the spring term, you'll begin to look at ordinary people in the Middle Ages, so in the medieval times, what was life like for them, what mattered to them, how society was and how people lived. We'll also look at power in the Middle Ages, so the role of kings and queens back in those days, and also what the wider world looked like at this time. And in the summer term, we'll be studying early modern Britain, so the period of time after the Middle Ages finishes, so from around about 1450. And we'll also be looking at what the wider world looked like at that time as well, through the themes that you can see on the screen. So in today's lesson, we're going to become detectives. History and being a historian is much like being a detective, and so we're going to play that part today. So our lesson question and title for today is, who were the mystery skeletons? And we're going to develop our knowledge and understanding of some people based on the evidence that we've got to hand. We're going to try and work out who these people were and how they lived and where they lived. We're going to use sources to make inferences, in other words, to work things out and reach our own conclusions. So I hope you enjoyed today's lesson, and I'm sorry we're not there in person. So as I said, being a historian is like being a detective. That's one of the reasons why I enjoy history, is because I'm really nosy and I want to find out about other people and how they lived and what they thought. And so today we're going to do a bit of that, just as a taster. So you're going to be working with sources. These are pieces of information from the past that historians study to work out what happened, and they use them to sort of like a jigsaw really to piece together events from the past. We also use the word evidence for sources, and this is a general word that we tend to use for sources. And the job of a historian is to use the evidence to work out what happened, which is a bit like a detective trying to solve a crime. So, we're faced with this mystery then. At Maiden Castle, 52 skeletons were discovered. There's a picture of 2 of them. What I want you to do is to make a list of the questions you want to ask about these skeletons. Leave a gap under each question because some of the evidence that you're going to study today might help you to answer those questions. Aim to try and get at least 3 questions written down, and the more nosy you are, the better. So, as I said, because I'm nosy, I write down a lot of questions. So, how do yours compare to mine? So the questions I wrote down were, how were they discovered? Who discovered them? What happened to them? Where were they discovered? How did they die? When did they die? How were they buried? And if they were killed, who was responsible? So let's see if we can piece together some of the answers to those questions today. And I'm not promising that the evidence will answer all of your questions, but it might go far to answer some of those questions. So we're going to turn our attention to the evidence now. Your teacher will have printed off for you some resources with some pieces of evidence on, and they're called, in this case, clues. There's an example of one of the clues on the screen now. And what you're going to do is you're going to fill in a little table sheet that looks a bit like this. I'm going to show you. Hopefully you can see that. And you're going to find out a little bit about these people and try and reach some conclusions about who they were and why they were there. So, we're going to have a little look at the sources firstly. Now, you've got your list of questions that you've come up with as nosy detectives. And what I'd like you to do is to see if you can answer any of those questions just in the next 5 minutes using the clues that are in front of you. So we'll do that first before we turn our attention to the table sheet. Okay, hopefully you've managed to answer some of the questions using those clues, and we're starting to build a picture of who these people could have been, what happened to them, and how come they ended up being buried, and also who discovered them. Although I think the last question might be a bit more tricky to answer. What we're really wanting to know is who were they and what happened to them. So, using the clues on your resource sheets and with your table sheet, what I'd like you to do now is to sift through those pieces of evidence and see if you can piece together who they were, how they died, who killed them, and how they were buried. And then hopefully you'll have a little bit of a time to think about it and think about how certain are you about what you've found out from the clues. So here is a clue, for example, clue G on the screen. This is a picture of a Roman soldier. You can tell, look at how he's dressed, that he's Roman. The Roman army, it says, used a weapon like this called a ballista, a kind of catapult that could shoot an iron-headed bolt 300 metres. Now with clue G, I'm going to look at the questions on my table sheet and I'm going to scan down them and I'm going to think, right, okay, which question's that going to help me answer? Well, it's not going to help me answer who they were, or it might answer how they died. It might also help us to answer who killed them, but it doesn't answer how were they buried. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write in how did they die in the second row. I'm going to write down they could have died with a ballista, which is the type of catapult that's pictured in clue G. And I'm also going to write down in the who killed them row, in the third row, that the Roman army might have killed them because the Roman army used this type of weapon. So I'm going to fill those two in as well. Now I'm not completely certain yet, so what I need to do is to have a look at the other clues and to see if they tell me some similar things. So in clue H, for example, that might help me to become more certain about the role of the ballista in the weapon, and it might also give me more certainty about the Roman army and whether they killed these people or not. Okay, so have a look through the clues, see if you can answer the questions on your table sheet, and see if you can have a think about how certain you are about the information that you've got from the clues. So do they support each other? Do they tell you the same things? And if they do, then that will make you more certain, won't it? So you will need a little bit of time now to have a go at looking through all those pieces of evidence, all those clues, to complete that table. Okay, and lastly today, when you filled in your table and had a chat with your teacher but also your classmates, what I would like you to do is to write down your opinion. So what do you think? Who do you think these people were? And what do you think happened to them? And there's some prompt questions to help you to structure your answer as well. So if you think that they were part of a tribe, then that will be the first thing. I think that they were part of a tribe. How do you think they died? I think that they died because they were in a battle with the Romans and they were killed with a ballista or something like that, just as an example. So you can use those prompt questions to help you and to stretch even further your skill as a historian. You could also say, I think this because in clue G it says, or it shows me a picture of, and that also is discussed in another clue, then that would show that you are backing up or supporting what you're saying with some of the clues as well. Okay, so thank you for your time today. I really hope you enjoyed the lesson, and I hope you enjoy being a detective. I certainly do. And I really look forward to meeting you in September when you come to Eastleigh Academy. So I wish you the best for the rest of this term and for your summer break. And I look forward to teaching you some history when we meet again in September. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.